Welcome everybody to this presentation, which is an overview of cannabidiol or CBD. I'm your host, Dr. Elise Snipes. I decided to do this video, which is something of a very high-level overview because there's a lot of people that don't understand the difference between marijuana or cannabis, CBD, and THC. Cannabis or marijuana is a plant, and it contains over 100 cannabinoids. Two of the most studied cannabinoids are THC and CBD. THC is the cannabinoid that produces the psychoactive effects of marijuana. At low levels, it tends to be sedating and increase dopamine to produce a feeling of euphoria. At high levels, it tends to cause anxiety, agitation, and even hallucinations. So THC is what they take out of the combination or the preparation when you get CBD oil or something like that. THC activates cannabinoid receptors and affects a person's memory, pleasure, movements, thinking, concentration, coordination, and sensory and time perception, according to the National Institute of Drug Abuse. CBD, on the other hand, is thought to possess anti-anxiety, anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, neuroprotective, and analgesic or pain relieving properties, as well as the ability to improve sleep quality. So CBD seems to do the opposite in many cases of what THC does. CBD is non-psychoactive, according to the National Center for Biotechnology Information, and actually is thought to block the high associated with THC. So if you've got a preparation in which CBD is really high and THC is relatively low, it's going to have much different effects than if somebody has a preparation that is 1-to-1 or where THC is a lot higher than CBD. When we talk about CBD and CBD oil, what we're talking about is something that is almost 100% CBD. And there are standards for how much THC it's supposed to have in it and or the upper tolerable limits. And we'll get into that in a minute. One study that I looked at found that 62% of people who take CBD, most of them take it orally, indicated that they use it to treat chronic pain, anxiety, depression, and sleep disorders. 36% of this group reported that CBD alone was effective in symptom reduction. That's not much less than the percentage of people that report symptom reduction from things like antidepressants, which tells us that for some people, this might be a good alternative. This might actually start getting to the root of what might be causing the problems. I keep talking about the need to get high quality CBD oil. Number one, you want to make sure that you're getting high quality, so you make sure the amount of CBD you're getting from dose to dose, vial to vial is relatively standard. Now, it's not going to be quite as tightly controlled as something that you get from the pharmacy that's controlled by the FDA. That's just, let's face facts there. However, companies that produce a higher quality CBD oil are going to have much higher quality control on their product. You want to look to see if it meets the quality standards. Current Good Manufacturing Practices, or CGMP certification from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, and or a National Science Foundation international certification. So you can look for those. You want to look and see if the company that makes it has an independent adverse event reporting program. Do they gather information from people when they have adverse events so they can figure out how to improve the product? Is the product certified organic or eco-farmed? Obviously, if you are looking at CBD, you're probably trying to get away from a lot of the man-made chemicals. So looking for something that's not farmed using a bunch of pesticides is probably a good thing. And have their products been laboratory tested by batch to confirm that the THC levels are less than 0.3% and they contain no pesticides or heavy metals. That level of less than 0.3% is what they need to make it, quote, legal. That doesn't mean that people who are in safety-sensitive positions, for example, and you know who you are if you're in one, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's safe for you to use CBD, partly because a lot of times the CBD products may contain more than that 0.3 amount, and you may end up testing positive. Epidiolex is the only FDA-approved CBD formulation, so that's the only formulation that's actually monitored by the FDA, so it's a prescription. And GW Pharmaceuticals PLC says it plans to charge $32,500 per patient annually. Wow, that's more than a lot of people make in an entire year. Over-the-counter CBD products vary highly in compositions and concentration, even from one unit to another within the same batch. Cannabinoids, including CBD and THC, interact with most other medications and should only be used under a physician's supervision. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about cytochrome P450 and why it's important to understand that CBD does interact with that enzyme and can cause toxic levels of certain medications. The FDA has issued warning letters about CBD products being falsely labeled and distributed. The THC content, again, is legally supposed to be less than 0.3%, but over-the-counter CBD products often contain higher amounts of THC. So the take-home from this is we are starting to learn a lot more about the cannabinoid system in the brain. We are starting to learn a lot more about the different cannabinoids that are within the cannabis plant. There are some of these cannabinoids that can be very helpful and are not psychoactive. They are not going to get people high. And they are finding that the effects, especially of CBD, which is the second most studied cannabinoid out there, can be very powerful for a lot of people and can help in the prevention or amelioration of a lot of different symptoms, from cognitive symptoms to pain to even depression and anxiety. So stay tuned for more videos about CBD to learn more.